Welcome to the Self-Storage Show, where I have conversations with my industry friends, talk with owners and vendors, and share tales about my management company, 3 Mile Storage. Let's go. Hi everyone, this is Jim Ross with the Self-Storage Show. I'm going to continue our little interview series here we've been doing. Got Pedro Florida with me. He's the COO of Trojan Storage and also on the board of directors of the California Self-Storage Association. In other words, you're a busy man. What's going on, Pedro?
Morning, Jim. Happy Friday. Good to be here.
Yeah, I know we were talking. Is it Friday? I don't know. It's always a blur.
Well, I think, like I said earlier, definitely ready for a little bit of rest, but very excited about today and opportunity to be on the show. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, the more people I can get on, in the storage industry that have been around, have different, perspectives and all that. Hey, we all learn and grow from that. So that's why you're on.
Absolutely.
Before we jump in, just give us a little Cliff Note version of who you are, what you do, and how you got in storage, and we'll go from there, man.
Of course. You said my name. I'm Pedro with Trojan Storage, currently running operations for our self-storage portfolio. This year is 20 years in the self-storage industry. Started a while back with self-storage management, also an LA-based development and operator firm. I think I got into it because of curiosity and probably a little bit of need. Over the years, grew into what I'm doing today, which is operations, probably through the channels of marketing and advertising at first, and then branched out to greater operations. So that is my formal background, and little by little grew passionate about this and was frankly fascinated, and started going to the conventions and gaining more responsibility, and now with a vibrant company like Trojan, and really having a lot of fun, growing like crazy. And hopefully, here to, share some best practices and tell folks, what's worked for us, and maybe some blind spots and things to, look out for.
No, that's why we're here. I love talking operations. That's my bread and butter. So you talk about operations, I can do that all day long. But
we are the blocking and tackling.
Exactly. I'm just curious how you said you guys are growing. How big is Trojan now?
So currently 43 facilities. Nice. In multiple states. We're now growing in New Jersey, some really nice projects out there, but strong presence in California, Oregon, Washington, and Illinois.
Jeez, okay, you're all over. That's awesome, man.
Absolutely.
So, good. Well, if you're growing, you're doing something right. If you have that many locations, and if you're in operations, yeah,
absolutely,
you got to be on top. You got to be on top of things, and always kind of testing things out, and kind of being educated on what's working and what's not working. Frankly. Mm-hmm. That's why I wanted to have you on. So kind of talk about, technology versus operations and kind of walking that line. So
yeah,
go ahead, man.
Yeah. And to dovetail off that, I recently wrote a quick newsletter for the California Self-Storage Association quarterly newsletter. And, it talked a little bit about technology, and it's evident that we've leaped into the modern world, and self-storage maybe was a little slow to implement and adopt some things over the years, right? So I think whoever went to the fall show or any of the big shows this year saw a plethora of technology, be it digital platforms, new hardware, new ways to do things that we are so used to doing the old-fashioned way, right? So some of the things that we were talking about with fellow operators and industry colleagues were, hey, there's so much out there. What's right for me? And, at Trojan, we're definitely comfortable with change, and we really want to be spearheading new processes and new ways to do things. But I do think you have to be aware of having a good process when you're adopting technology, right? Because I feel that you're on the trade show floor, everything is new and shiny. You're like, wow, this thing can absolutely save me some time and money. this looks amazing. That's what we need, right? And you're blown away by how things look and by, what you're being told this can do. And you say, sold, we're going with this, right? Whatever it is. I don't want to, pick on anything in particular because there are a lot of new things on the market, right? And then you take this new thing and you're turning around and trying to find a way or a place for it in your operation. And I feel that's where the dissonance comes, right? That's probably not the best practice. And so I wanted to say, to all the folks out here listening that there's probably a 3-step process that we should follow when we want to implement new technology. And I think the first thing is discovery, right? Discovery and planning should be the first and longest process in these 3 steps, right? Sitting down with your team, really analyzing first internally, right? What you need to improve and where you can change and, make some tweaks, right? So include the evaluation of current technology, right? Your current infrastructure, and what challenges are you really facing? What are the goals, right, that you have and the things you want to achieve with new technology? Until you have that, it should be a holistic conversation, right? You're not near the nuts and bolts yet. It's just in your mind, overall, strategically, what are you trying to achieve? And so this can be a brainstorming activity. It can be, now we're in budget season, so it could be a strategic planning meeting, right? Looking into next year. And you should have all the stakeholders, right? Sometimes I feel like these meetings happen between 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of, the folks involved. And in reality, you should open this up to your team and have a frank and honest conversation of what is this going to look like? So to me, that's the first part, right?
Yeah.
And what are you trying to evaluate here? How is it going to change your operation and workflow? Is this solution scalable, right? Is it within our budget? Because a lot of times, you think, okay, well, this will apply for one. Does it apply for your entire portfolio? Are you going to be able to amortize this throughout, all your sites? And one thing that is very important, and I know we've run into it, does this new technology play nice with your current operation and your current technology? Right? We've all heard
We've been through that.
Buzzwords, integration,
Yep.
API access.
Sure.
Is the data going to push and pull? Right? Then who's going to build that? Is there a maintenance fee for the API access? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered,
Yep.
in this phase. And so you should end up with this first phase having a very clear scope of work. And that's the first takeaway, right? It should be an executive summary that lines out everything that you went over with your team and end up with, a clear scope of what you're looking for. I think the next step is the research and then the solution selection, right? Your vendor selection. I like to call them business partners because this is a little bit now like going out and dating, right? You're
Totally.
trying to find that person that you're going to spend a lot of time with. And I know that's a funny analogy to make, but in a way,
Totally true.
This is a business partner. This is somebody that's going to walk hand in hand, into the future. And you really want to understand, what they're about. So number one is vendor reputation, right? This is a good industry where you can, tap your neighbor and say, hey,
I was gonna say,
what was your experience with this? And we're fortunate enough that people are open to sharing their experience. So, that's the first place I would start.
I learn more by talking to other people that are using that service or have had experience with the service than I do ever talking to the sales agents of that service. Just
it's a marriage of both, right?
Yep. So much very valuable. Yep, go ahead.
Absolutely. You also want to take a look at compatibility, right? We brushed a little bit on this previously. Like, is this going to be compatible with systems that I already use? And again, is it going to play nice?
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned scalability. This is important. There's a lot of solutions out there that, look really nice, but once you start blowing them up, and especially for an outfit like us, where, we are in perpetual growth, we want something that's going to be able to scale with our growth. So, it's important to keep that in mind. Something that you can also find out very easily is, how is the support and maintenance of this product or platform once you buy it? Because, once you sign that work order, you're handed off to somebody else, and the honeymoon phase ends, and now you're living with each other. And so it's important to know, what does the support and the maintenance side of this look like? Because you're going to be calling people, right? And you're going to be needing to fix and tweak things. And, I'd say that's kind of like, your bedside manners. And so,
when I'm doing that, when I was kind of going back to about talking with other people that have used that vendor, as you said, the handoff. The honeymoon phase is over. You're doing the handoff. My number one question is, what's the communication like? That's always my number one thing. Because there's nothing worse than trying to be like, okay, I paid you some money. Hello. And you're just trying to get that kind of response. So I always look at communication. That's a high one priority for me.
Yeah, and what's a good telltale is if they have a client success rep, right? Which usually is that person that kind of is through the whole journey. And so they start working with the, account exec or the sales folks, and then they bring you over to the implementation, and then they kind of like, hand you off in the end to whoever's going to be your final, rep. So
there's a common thread through everything. So
right, they're your point person. And so if they have one of those, then you're probably in good hands. And so, that really is the research and selection phase. And I think here you want to get to know the people as well. What's the company about, right? Who's at the helm, and what are they looking for? It's just a matter of having meetings, and once you're getting closer and closer, really being honest, of being able to openly share what your vision is, and being candid with each other. If you feel that somebody is, then you probably have a good partner moving forward.
Yeah, open communication, transparency. That's a big one for me. What can you do for me? How that communication goes, your other vendors you've worked with, other clients. Just having open communication, that transparency goes a long ways. And that's absolutely, this goes back to the part of the, for lack of a better word, it's part of the due diligence,
right,
of what you're doing. So
of course, and as much time as you need to spend really to feel comfortable with somebody. So the last part of these three, I love to triage things, is the pilot, testing, and implementation. Right at this point, I think there's like a bridge, right? And sometimes people sign a work order and they forget that maybe they should have tested this. And so a lot of new platforms and a lot of new products offer a little sandbox environment, right? Where you can kind of go play and build your little sandcastles and see if these things are going to, like we said, play nice with your existing tech stack. Do they really look like that on the UX side, right? Is the customer going to see what I was told it was going to be, right? And I promise you, there's always little nuances and minutia that don't surface in the process, no matter how long your laundry list of question was, right? You're like, oh wait, I didn't know that I had to do that for this to activate or not activate, or oh, there's not a drop down menu here. You mean we have to go back? Oh no, that's not what I wanted. So there's always little things there that in the pilot testing will show up. And so if you're with a reputable company, they should be able to offer you an instance where you can test the product or the platform and really have the main stakeholders in your organization play with it, right? And kind of run some of the day-to-day processes through it to see how it reacts and how it feels. only then would I, move forward with adopting, one of these, technology pieces or platforms. And so before committing to the large scale, adoption, pilot testing, and, that brings us into how you plan for implementation, right? What site or what part of your portfolio or what part of your data are you going to test with?
Yeah.
Right? Is it a site that you have access to that has good internet service, that maybe is, a part of, a portfolio where it's representative of your overall, customer base, right? So you get statistically relevant information during your testing, and run the test parallel to what you're doing before you interrupt your operations, right? These things are cumbersome, but in the end, they're going to pay off, right? And during that time, you should be taking notes and screenshots, because the big thing that I feel sometimes can be missed is the training. And this is training for internal clients and for external clients, your customers.
Yeah.
Right? They need to go hand in hand, because you have to teach your customers how this new process is going to feel and what they need to do. There's probably a letter, communication, signage, emails, right? You want to promote it. And then internally, you've got to train, right? Who's going to make, that training material? When is it going to be deployed? Are you going to have, follow-ups? Are you going to train top to bottom, right? You need a schedule. And I can tell you, probably 30 to 60 days at the very least, where you're really running through these things until you go live. So, it's not always thought about, Jim, but it is very important. And so that kind of brings it full circle. If you do the discovery and planning, if you do your research and vendor selection, and finally the pilot testing and implementation with a strong training program, I feel that you've probably arrived at the right technology, you understand it, and now you've really created an environment for your internal and external clients to buy into it, and you're probably setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, that's the whole point. What we're talking about here is trying to set yourself up for success, because we want you to help try to avoid those landmines that we've all been through.
Absolutely.
I mean, we could probably sit there and tell some a lot of horror stories, and kind of been there and done that. So
right,
going
I'm
through
sure
those...
you could do a whole series on those.
Oh, we could. Oh yeah, this is the horror stories of self-storage for sure. Definitely plenty of those. But no, you're exactly right. I like how you kind of break that out with that process. I mean, it sounds like a lot, and it should be a lot, frankly, because it's vitally important. We're not just talking about money here.
Right.
It trickles down. It's an impact on your operations, and an impact on your employees, and most importantly, it's an impact on your customers.
Right.
So you got to make sure all your ducks in a row and things are going to be implemented correctly, not just a rash decision of, ooh, that looks great, I want that. The end.
Right. Absolutely.
There's a lot in between there. So
absolutely. And you used a key word earlier when we were talking about one of the phases, and I think that needs to be probably a theme across, which is communication.
Yeah.
Right. Communication needs to start in the beginning of why we're doing this. It needs to be a part of your vendor selection, to really understand what each one of these companies or solutions is about. And then in the end, really get the buy-in from people so that they go back to inception and understand why we're going through all this, right? Because there's hardship in any implementation, and to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? So that they feel good about the effort and good about the new solution, the updated processes. By the way, you should update your operations handbook, right? Because now there's a new process loop in there, and there needs to be training. And then what are you going to say to your customers, right? How are you going to tell this story? And I think that's something that's a little bit lost. It's just like, well, I do what I want. Here's the 30-day notice, take it or leave it. Although that's true, you can do it that way. But if you tell a story, right, and you appeal to the value that's being brought with this, it's much well received, and people will thank you for it versus write some mean reviews on Google.
And I always frame it around, I always frame it around what's in it for them. What's the benefit for them? And if
Exactly.
you put it in a frame, you can put anything, frankly, under that frame. And it makes it a lot easier whenever you're making, because bottom line, I know we're kind of talking generalities here, but no one likes change.
Right.
No one likes change. I don't care if we're talking about if it's the cameras or the gate system or if it's a website or what have you. And that's for your customers and for your employees, frankly. And
Absolutely.
as long as you get everyone to buy in as to why and how it's going to benefit not just the customer, but the company and themselves, it's a lot easier to process. So.
It is. And it just also adds, I think, value to the company's culture.
No, true.
Because then you have people who are believing in everything that they're doing. And I got to tell you, there's nothing stronger than a team that has belief in the organization and leadership. I mean, we can unpack that in a whole other episode, right? Of the tremendous value that brings having a team that, really, really understands and is behind every new initiative and the way we do things.
Yeah. And side note, just a little kudos to your team though, because I've actually interviewed a few people from your team already, and yeah, you guys are definitely doing something right. So I can just tell this
wonderful
talk with you guys that you have placed a very high value on that. So sometimes
we do.
Lost. So that's great to hear.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, of course. We're kind of wrapping things up here. Again, as people are listening to this, and like I said, Trojans, they're plowing the way through this when it comes to implementing technology, but just being open, frankly, of learning and kind of bringing value to the industry. So maybe if you've said something that people want to reach out, maybe bend your ear a little bit more and talk about something, how would they reach out to you?
So I think the best way is through my LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
That's definitely the easiest way to get to me. And if anybody has questions, I'd love to have some coffee either at any of the events or jump on a quick call. Again, we are storage people, and we understand the value of this industry, which is big camaraderie, teamwork, and we stand behind that. So yeah, anybody out there that wants to just have a sounding board for your ideas, just hit me a direct message on LinkedIn, and we'll find some time.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks again for making the time, Pedro. We'll have to do this again, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, Jim. Take care. It was a pleasure.
Sounds good. See ya. Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder. Do you want to level up your storage game? Visit 𝐿SelfStorageShow.com. Grab some high-value freebies, check out top vendor spotlights, and stay in the loop with our newsletter. Do you want to chat about becoming a client with 3 Mile Storage Management? All the info's there. Plus, if you've got a story to share, we're listening. Everything you need is at 𝐿SelfStorageShow.com.